Amara returned home from work to find his husband, Ben, eating their mattress. He was hunched over the brand new mattress that Amara bought the day before, and was happily munching away at the foam, with his cheeks stuffed like a chipmunk. Ben! Not again! Amara said, throwing her hands in the air in frustration. This is the last mattress in the house. You've eaten everything. I am tired of sleeping on the floor at night. Ben looked up at her, foam crumbs littered all over his body, and said with an innocent smile, "But Amara, it's so soft and delicious. I can't resist." Amara heaved a sigh of frustration as she slumped into her chair, whose foam had also been eaten by her husband. A chair that once served as her favorite was now reduced to just a wooden frame and fabric. Ben, you've eaten every mattress, cushion, and chair in this house. How am I supposed to live like this? Do you know how embarrassing it is to not be able to invite my friends to our home anymore? Ben looked at her, still holding a chunk of foam in his hand. Amara, it's just foam. I don't see the big deal, he said as he continued to munch on the foam, not caring how his wife felt about it. By the time night came, Ben had eaten almost half of the mattress, not caring where Amara would sleep. Filled with intense anger, Amara picked up her phone and called his mother to complain about her son's strange addiction. His mother let out a loud laugh, reminding Amara of what she said when he came to ask for Ben's hand in marriage. It was a few months ago, and Ben's mother had ensured that she told Amara about her son's strange addiction. Amara, after hearing this, laughed it off and said that she didn't care if Ben ate all the foam in the world, that her love for him was deeper than any addiction.
Ben's mother reminded her of the promise, and Amara revealed that she had no idea it was this serious. Ben's mother then encouraged her to figure out a way to make him stop, and Amara decided to make it her mission to rid her husband of his strange addiction. She sat on the bare wooden frame that had once been her comfortable sofa, deep in thought. Her eyes drifted to Ben, who had fallen into a deep sleep, curled up on the small section of the bed he hadn't yet consumed. The room, once full of comfort, now felt as hollow as the mattress he had devoured. Amara knew in that moment that she was in trouble. Her husband had eaten 2 mattresses already, and Amara knew that she couldn't continue to live like this. She stayed up all night, her mind racing for a solution. By morning, she finally settled on what seemed like a brilliant idea. Amara went out to the shops and ordered 5 mattresses. She believed that overwhelming her husband with abundance would make him get tired and give up on his addiction. But what she didn't know was that Ben had eaten over 10 mattresses in his lifetime. He was so excited to see the mattresses and thanked his wife for being so understanding and kind. Amara was furious, clenching her fists in frustration, but forced a smile. "You're welcome," she said angrily, as Ben happily ran his hands over the new mattresses, smiling and jumping in excitement. Amara realized in that moment that her plan had backfired. Days passed, and Ben devoured the mattresses one after the other, as though they were his favorite delicacies. Amara watched in disgust as her once neat and tidy home transformed into a litter of foam. She couldn't believe that her idea had only fueled his addiction, and decided to do something before it got out of hand. Seeing how Ben was engrossed in his meal, Amara pretended to be in extreme pain. She pleaded for Ben to rush to the pharmacy to get her some medications, and Ben, terrified to see her in pain, quickly rushed off to the pharmacy, not forgetting to take a chunk of foam with him, which he squeezed into his bag. Amara watched as he rushed out of the house and immediately arranged for the mattresses to be discarded. She ensured that no single mattress was left in the house. When Ben returned from the pharmacy, he was heartbroken to realize that everything had gone. All he was left with was the small chunk of foam that he had put in his bag when he rushed out of the house. His heart was so heavy to know that his wife could be so cruel and inconsiderate. "Amara!" he cried, dropping the bag with the medication on the floor. "Where are the mattresses? What happened to them?" His voice wavered, filled with a mixture of confusion and sorrow. Amara stood firm, arms crossed as she spoke, saying, "Ben, I had to do this. You've eaten everything in this house. I've tried to be patient, I've tried to understand, but I can't take it anymore. This madness has to stop." Ben's eyes were now filled with tears. The foam he had grown so attached to was gone, and he didn't know what to do. He sat on the ground, his heart heavy with sadness, as tears began to pour down from his eyes. Amara was heartbroken to see her husband in such a state. Should I bring the mattress back? She thought to herself as she remembered the harm that this could cause them. Amara then decided to stand her ground, knowing that she was doing the right thing. She rushed into the kitchen and prepared a delicious meal for her husband, who was no longer at the spot she left him. Amara walked around the house calling for Ben, but got no response. Terrified that he might have run away, Amara quickly ran out of the house and was shocked to see her husband in the car. Ben had locked himself inside the car, munching on the foam in the car seat. Amara stood frozen, her heart sinking as she watched Ben tear into the foam of the car seat like it was his last meal. "Ben, no!" Amara shouted, banging on the car window. "You have to stop this. It's getting out of hand." But Ben, lost in his compulsion, didn't seem to listen. He continued munching, his cheeks stuffed with foam. Amara felt a deep sense of helplessness wash over her. She knew she had to act fast before Ben consumed the entire car interior, leaving them without any means of transportation. Realizing that words weren't enough, Amara ran back into the house, searching for the spare key to the car. Her mind raced as she thought of what to do next. "I can't let him keep doing this," she muttered to herself. "I need help, real help." She finally found the key and rushed back outside, unlocking the car door. Ben looked up, startled, foam crumbs all over his face. "Get out of the car, Ben," Amara said firmly, though her voice was filled with sadness. "I can't let you destroy everything we own. This has to stop." Ben got down from the car and walked into the house, his bag stuffed with some foam that would last him for a few hours. Amara stared at the car seat, which was now a total mess. The once beautiful interior now looked like something out of a disaster scene. And Amara, in that moment, realized that her husband's strange addiction had destroyed yet another part of their life. She felt so frustrated and downcast as she tried everything possible to control her anger. She walked into their home and met Ben, who stood in the corner, nibbling on the foam that he had stashed in his bag. Amara sat on the chair, burning with anger, as she thought of what to do. Maybe he's bored and needs to work to keep his mind busy, she thought to herself, as she made up her mind to get him a job. If he's busy, he won't have the luxury of time to think about his addiction, let alone act on it, she thought, convinced that her plan would work. The next morning, Amara made a few phone calls and was able to secure a job for her husband at her friend's office. She was so delighted, knowing that her plan would work, so she approached Ben and informed him of his new job. Ben didn't seem pleased to hear about it. However, as Ben pondered everything, he realized that the plan wasn't such a bad one after all. Ben knew that with this job, he would be able to earn money for himself, enabling him to buy as many mattresses as he would ever need. He smiled and informed his wife Ben that he would be taking the job. Amara was delighted, knowing that her plan would work. Little did she know her husband also had a plan of his own. While Amara saw the job as a solution to his husband's addiction, Ben saw it as an opportunity to make money, enough to buy anything he ever wanted, especially more foam. The next morning, Ben got up early to prepare for work. He grabbed the little foam he had left and carefully placed it in his bag, ensuring not to leave for work without it. He got dressed, and Amara offered to drive him to work. Ben smiled happily at her, and Amara was thrilled to see how happy he looked on his first day at the job. A few minutes later, Ben arrived at the office and was handed a large stack of files to photocopy. His eyes widened in shock, as he never expected such a heavy workload on his first day. He spent hours standing by the photocopier, his legs shaking as his waist ached from the constant standing. After what felt like an eternity, Ben finally finished photocopying all the documents and eagerly anticipated returning to his desk to munch on his foam. He brought the documents to his supervisor only to be told that he had to stamp each one. His supervisor gestured for him to sit at the desk next to her table and handed him a stamp. Ben couldn't believe his eyes. He sat there stamping document after document, and the more he stamped, the more he craved his foam, which he believed would fill him with the strength he needed. Ben began to strategize. He had to get to his bag immediately and decided to ask his supervisor for permission to use the restroom. He walked out of the supervisor's office straight to his desk, plunging his hand into his bag for the foam. To his surprise, there was no foam inside. Ben's heart raced as he wondered where it could have gone. His eyes widened in panic as he thought about how he would survive the next 5 hours with such a demanding workload. Unable to control his urges, Ben wandered around the office and came across a room that appeared abandoned. Inside was a dusty sofa. He immediately got an idea and snuck into the room, ensuring no one saw him. Spotting a pair of scissors on a nearby table, Ben swiftly grabbed them. He created a large tear on the side of the sofa and pulled out some foam, throwing it into his mouth and munching as though he hadn't eaten in days. The foam seemed to lift the weight off his shoulders as he devoured it. Just as he was about to leave, Ben suddenly stumbled upon a woman standing behind him, her mouth open in shock at witnessing his strange behavior. Ben panicked and began to plead with the woman. Without saying a word, she walked out of the office, leaving him terrified of the consequences of his actions. Unsure of his fate, Ben returned to his desk and continued stamping documents. It took him several hours to finish, and before he knew it, the workday was over. Ben rushed out of the office and headed straight home. He couldn't believe how exhausted he was and eagerly anticipated the comfort of his home. However, when he opened the door, Ben was met with an overwhelming sight. He couldn't believe what his addiction had turned his home into. The house that had once been a cozy sanctuary now looked deserted, with shredded sofas and furniture destroyed by his compulsive behavior. This broke Ben's heart deeply. His wife Amara was on the phone, speaking to her friend Udeme, the same woman who had caught Ben red-handed, tearing up the sofa at the office. Udeme didn't sound happy at all as she recounted the incident to Amara, who felt a deep sense of shame about what had transpired. Udeme on the phone sounded disturbed. "Your wife munched on our office sofa, Amara, and I don't think that's normal behavior. No wonder you told me to keep her extremely busy at the office. You should consider taking her for deliverance because this looks more spiritual than physical," he said. Amara was deeply embarrassed hearing this from her friend. She never expected Ben to do such a thing on his first day of work. Udeme had been kind enough to offer Ben a job, yet his foam-eating addiction had followed him into the workplace. It was now clear to Amara that this wasn't just a strange habit or compulsion, it was something much deeper. She began to wonder if it was a form of possession and decided to follow her friend's advice to seek spiritual help for her husband. That evening, Amara sat Ben down and insisted they seek professional help. She informed him about a prophet her friend had recommended, a man who specialized in deliverance. "Are you saying I'm possessed?" Ben asked defensively. "I don't believe you're possessed," Amara replied gently, "but we need to explore every option to help you overcome this strange addiction." "I just want my husband back," Amara said softly, her voice laced with concern. "I don't know what else to do, Ben. Please, let's just try." After a long pause, Ben nodded in agreement. "All right, if it'll help, I'll go." The next morning, Ben and Amara set off for the prophet's house. It was a modest place, but many people from far and wide came seeking spiritual intervention. As they arrived, the prophet, a tall man with a calm demeanor, welcomed them warmly. After listening to Amara's story, the prophet instructed Ben to kneel before him. "We will pray, and through the power of the Almighty, we will see what forces are at work here," he said. Though nervous, Ben and Amara followed his instructions and began to pray fervently as the prophet's voice rose in intensity. Moments into the prayer, Amara sensed something was wrong. She opened her eyes only to discover that Ben had disappeared. Panic surged through her. "Ben!" she called, her voice trembling with fear. The prophet stopped mid-prayer and looked around, also sensing that something was amiss. "Where has he gone?" he asked, a shocking look on his face. They began searching the entire vicinity for him. After several minutes, they found Ben outside, crouched beside a discarded cushion, tearing it apart and stuffing pieces of foam into his mouth like a starving animal. Amara's heart broke at the sight, her face contorting in anguish. She didn't know how to help him anymore, but fought hard not to give up. "Ben!" Amara cried out, rushing toward him and trying to stop him. But the damage had already been done. His compulsion had completely taken over. The prophet, watching from a distance, approached with a calm but grave expression. "This is no ordinary addiction," he said seriously. "There is a deep spiritual affliction here, but it will not end unless he truly wants to be free." Ben's face was smeared with foam, tears welling up in his eyes as he looked at Amara, ashamed of his actions. Deep down, Ben knew he didn't want to stop. There was joy in his strange addiction that he couldn't explain, but seeing the pain in Amara's eyes filled him with overwhelming guilt. That evening, Ben sat quietly in the dining room, overcome with shame. Amara watched him from across the table, the weight of the situation heavy between them. The house, once warm and comfortable, now felt cold and broken, and Ben could feel the enormity of his addiction sinking in. He knew he needed to change, and this time he had to mean it. As they sat in silence, a sharp pain suddenly shot through Ben's stomach. He screamed in agony, clutching his abdomen, unable to comprehend what was happening. Alarmed, Amara rushed to help him as they noticed that he was bleeding. They quickly made their way to the hospital, Amara's mind racing with fear and confusion. At the hospital, Ben was wheeled into the emergency room, while Amara paced back and forth, her heart pounding with worry. Hours passed before a doctor finally came out, his face serious but calm. "Mrs. Amara," the doctor began, "your husband is stable now, but we've discovered something troubling. He is pregnant." Amara's eyes widened in shock. "Pregnant? But how?" the doctor continued. "He's in the early stages, but his condition is complicated due to his foam eating habit. The chemicals in the foam are not safe, and they've already started affecting his health, and that of the baby. As it stands, the baby has a 50 chance of survival, and any more ingestion of foam could lead to serious complications." Amara's heart sank. She had no idea her husband was pregnant. His addiction wasn't just harming him, it was endangering their unborn child. The weight of the situation hit her hard, like a bolt of lightning. "She'll need to stop consuming foam immediately, or the baby's life could be at serious risk," the doctor said, walking away. Heartbroken, Amara went to see Ben. He lay there pale and weak, his eyes filled with guilt and fear. He had heard everything the doctor said, and was devastated to know that their baby's life was now hanging in the balance because of his uncontrollable addiction.